Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics, proudly sponsored by CoolStuffInc.com, Mana Traders, as well as Twitch subs and Patreon supporters just like yourself. I am Evan Irwin. We get started each week by saying hello to my two co-hosts, Power Dragon.
Man, this is going to be a good one, everybody, and we might have some hot takes on this one.
Hope so. Reuben Bressler.
There's some, for once in our lives, we do have some drama to talk about. It's been a minute since we've had someone put their foot in it. I don't like it when someone puts their foot in it, but it is good for the show.
It's good for the show. People like to hear the takes, the sweet, sweet hot takes. Now, if you missed our pre-show, patrons and subs to the channel get access to all that cool stuff early. We kick it off with our first pick and our promotion of the code Magic Mics at CoolStuffInc.com. Use the promo code Magic Mics when you're checking out for 5% off anything you want. Anything, sealed, singles, whatever. Use that promo code Magic Mics, which will tell them that we sent you, which we appreciate it. And that, of course, we also support our favorite streamer at the end of the show to see who we raid at the end of it. And that is thanks to our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com, where you can find cool stuff in stock every day. Okay, so it's time to hit the Dramaville. And this week, the drama happened from an artist named David Sondered. And he had illustrated Wayfarer's Bauble in the new set. And then someone, aka the person who illustrated the background, spoke up and was like, hey, bruh, you just straight up lifted my artwork. Let me show you that tweet here. Because it's pretty clear when you look at the one and you look at the other, he just mirrored the artwork, and that was kind of the end of it. And so,
like,
go ahead.
Here's the thing. Like, if you're looking at the artwork, it doesn't even look like one piece. Right? It looks like a piece of art superimposed over a piece of another art. And he didn't even, like, we all were in school. We tried to plagiarize something before. You at least, like, reword the sentence or, whatever. Like, this dude literally took the thing, just removed a person on the stairs and was like, this will be a good background. Like, he didn't do anything to it.
Yeah, so the artist responded with a really weird kind of response saying, like, I do this all the time, but most of the time you can't tell I'm doing it. And I'm like, that's a weird way to say that. I don't know if that was the best way to explain that you screwed up. It was nice that they didn't just straight deny it. There was no lies. They were clearly using that piece, and there was no getting around that. Right. And before you know it, old Wizards of the Coast spoke up, and they said, the misuse of art like that is expressly prohibited by their guidelines and doesn't reflect the values of them. And as such, they'll be suspending any future work with David Sondered until further notice. And for a fantasy artist to get blackballed by Wizards is not good for your career. It's just not.
We had this happen once in, was it 2020, 2021? Something like that?
With the Nicol Bolas promo.
Yeah, there was a guy who had used two different artists' work and tried to make a piece, and Wizards cut them off, and it seems like it's going to be indefinite.
Yeah, they don't really bring back those because there's so many artists out there who are dying to work on Magic cards, who are trying, who are working on that portfolio, and you got the chance and you got the opportunity,
and it's not just Magic. You get an opportunity to do D&D stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, and the fact that you took that opportunity and you did this, even if it's a workload thing, if you couldn't make the piece in time, this is not how you fix that problem. You just say you can't do the piece, or you figure out some other way to make it done.
Let's be real, right? Even if you do this all the time, basically is what that apology said, was like, you're going to do a piece that people are going to, like, literally millions of people are going to see. The odds of you getting busted are huge.
Yeah.
Like, why would you risk it on that? Like, it's one thing if you're doing a custom piece really quick and it's going to go in somebody's hallway or whatever, and like 30 people ever see it. Doing something for a literal multinational company on a worldwide product.
Yeah.
Stupid. Absolutely stupid. Like, it is not worth the risk.
It's not.
So I have a couple of thoughts before we go in on this person. I do want to say some things just as groundwork, ground level work here. One is, we've seen this before, and it seems to be happening more and more. And it is, I think, related to the workload and the time pressure that Wizards is putting on the artists. I think that we didn't see this happen when there were a half as many sets.
Sure. And the workload has absolutely increased.
So
No
that
doubt,
is
no
part of the pressure. Another part of the pressure is artificial intelligence art, which isn't real. That's not art. But there is a pressure being felt. You know, you're feeling the breath on the back of your neck as an artist
right.
when artificial intelligence is coming down the pike. So I can appreciate and not understand, but I can appreciate why an artist would feel the need to do this. Now, I would also say that, you know, so that's before. Now we'll go to after. We've got the apology, which was weird in that it was not really an apology. It was an admission. It was certainly an admission.
Yeah.
And I think that that's better than an apology, in my opinion.
At least he owned up to it, that for sure.
Yeah, owned up to it.
Yeah.
And, you know, as we like to say, I don't want your apologies. I want your behavior to change. The best apology is changed behavior. So as long as this artist is willing to do that, and as long as anyone is willing to, you know, change their behavior after doing someone wrong or something like that, then more power to them. And with all of that said, this is a garbage thing that they did. This is a terrible thing that they did, taking art and not crediting it.
And you know, Wizards, to their credit, has updated the Oracle art credit to be both of them, both David Sondered and Lorenzo Lanfranconi, who was the actual most of the piece, arguably, ? But yeah, they've done that so far, and that's great. So I can imagine if they reprinted this, they're not going to use this art anyway. So they'll get.
You know, I also have to say though, to the point of like the work schedule, you're a grown person, right? Sure. If you can't meet the deadline, you tell them like, hey, this too many pieces. I can get you 4, I can't get you 5.
Right.
Right, because I think this person's only done 13 or 14 pieces, something like that, and some of those are for, like, I think 6 of them or something were for Warhammer last year, which means they were done probably even 9 to 12 months before that. So that's a pretty long window. There's still a 1.5 to 2 year window to get those done still. So it's like, and sure, I'm sure they have other obligations, and that's not the only thing they're doing artwork for, but yeah, I mean, and it's one thing to use it as a reference or whatever. Like, people do that all the time. You find stuff out there. Hey, I need an idea for like a certain pose or the way a certain planet looks or whatever. Totally understandable. But you can't just shove their work right into the background of your work. Like, there's just no excuse for that.
And Pharmacist Judge is correct, and I was wrong. Gatherer has not updated it yet, but Scryfall has already updated it, which is great. And I also expect Scryfall to move a lot faster than Wizards, so that's one thing.
Well, that's what you get for using Gatherer. But yes, Scryfall has updated the artist credit, which if you play Magic, you use Scryfall. If you're just looking up random stuff, you're likelier to use
also
Gatherer.
True.
I need to know someday when I'm very much older and very much grayer, I'm old and gray enough as it is, but someday I need to know why Scryfall is not just the official Magic database. Is it just an ownership thing? Is it just a money thing? I don't know.
Probably.
That's the only thing I can
already.
figure. Yeah, I can only figure it's more of an ownership thing, because Wizards is probably just going to try to buy the whole thing outright.
Right.
And they just may not want to sell. I don't know.
I mean, there's a certain amount of money that it makes every year, and there's a certain amount that they would want for the buyout, and a certain amount they'd want to stay on to keep it going and yada yada, have it be upkeep or teach someone at Wizards how to keep it up or whatever. But, you know, considering how Gatherer has been such a redheaded stepchild and how Scryfall has done nothing but get more and more useful and more great at what it does, it's wild to me that we're still.
And a Wizards buyout isn't always bad. I mean, look what happened with Spell Table, right? Everybody was freaking out, but
just moved
Spell Table gets updates quick. They've added a bunch of features to it. And my understanding is they kept the initial team on to even be the ones to manage it, work on it, whatever, most of the time. So,
and we need that same story for Lorcana and Pixelborn. Ravensburger, just hire those people in and just turn that into a product, and y'all just start making the money, and let's go.
There's a lot of retailers not happy with Ravensburger right now.
Well, I can tell you that Lorcana absolutely killed it in sales, and
oh sure,
literally the biggest 2 weekends of Cool Stuff Games this year has been the 2 releases of Lorcana, and it's not close.
As they should, yeah,
and as most stores should. So, if you're able to get some of that good stuff, run with it because it'll keep your doors open. Either way, don't steal art. That's weird. I don't know how else to say that. That was strange. We're gonna move out of here from the first pick to get out of the townsfolk. Thanks to our sponsor, Mana Traders, the best tool to enhance your Magic Online experience. Use the code MagicMikes for 12% off your next subscription with Mana Traders. And we move on here to gather the townsfolk. There is yet another secret lair drop, and beyond the fact that we could argue that there's more real life actors as characters on cards or whatever, I really feel that at some point we're just getting beyond secret lair stuff is special, because as Wizards likes to do, if anything is successful, they do it 1,000,000 times over. If you liked it, we shove it down. We make a ton of it, and I understand that, but my God, even just going like 1 release or 2 releases a month, I think would be reasonable. But continuing to try to sell $500+ packages every single month to these collectors, and they're just also finding out that they're not all winners, and they're not all bangers like they used to be, and they're not all like surefire hits like they were when it first came out. And these days, it's a lot of question marks as to where should I even buy this? Should I bother? The Locust God thing is cool if you buy $100 or $200 worth of stuff. I don't know if it's worth that, but they also made a Dr. Ian Malcolm one, and there's the sexy Jeff Goldblum right there.
Amazing on Tassiger, nonetheless.
Yeah,
it's kind of hilarious though. Honestly,
it's very good. The meme is very good. It's a strong meme.
It's an excellent meme. And look at that grin and Malcolm's mercurial mirth.
Yep.
That's a hell of a grin. And I love this. For those who are just like hating on it, I think that's silly. Like, this is, first of all, this is where I think it was Saffron Olive said he didn't like it that much. And to me, it's because they're not just using stills of the movie. And they could have. I'm sure they could have. But they did the work and got it illustrated. Now, somebody pointed out the League of Legends show on Netflix, Arcane. Remember the Arcane Secret Lair? That was more or less screenshots. But,
okay.
But it's also hard to kind of illustrate an animated character because they're already an animated character.
Other issue is, too, when working with studios, the stills are actually going to be way more expensive than it is to pay an artist to actually do a rendition.
Right.
A lot of times.
And so, it's kind of the best of both worlds, honestly. I think it makes the cards look better, and it removes that kind of cheapness from it that I think you can get otherwise. But regardless, so, and this is cool, and people are freaking out over the Jurassic World Life Breaks Free Secret Lair, because like Indominus Rex is a Polyraptor. It's clearly a blue looking card that is a green card, which is also weird.
The other thing is that they released the card Indominus Rex as part of a different release. So this is a Godzilla treatment named Indominus Rex that is in fact a Polyraptor. Then there's also just a card named Indominus Rex.
Like that doesn't bother me as much as the color issue, because we could have just tinted this green instead of blue, right? There's no reason for it to be blue. But I've seen people being upset of like the choice of dinosaurs,
right?
But that just feels like weird fandom anger for no reason, because like
Regisaur Alpha is a T-Rex, right? Isn't that what it was?
Well, not a Spinosaurus.
Not a Spinosaurus.
But here's the thing,
I love a Spinosaurus, but
Jurassic World or Jurassic Park, like they made up some dinosaurs anyway.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we're playing with things that are also made up dinosaurs that have practically no canon to what they are or what they look like anyway. So, I can only be so bothered.
Yeah, the one that I like less. Yeah, the one I like less is Wayward Swordtooth being Triceratops, because I don't think that Triceratops has teeth. I could be mistaken, but I think that's a beak.
They're herbivores, right? Am I wrong on that?
Well, they're herbivores. They could have molars.
Maybe fairly,
but they don't have sword teeth like a Wayward Swordtooth.
Right.
Anyway,
there's a whole bunch of just like
fandom.
I will say though, if you like dinosaurs, they're really cool, and the frames are pretty
sure.
I think they look neat. I like how neat they look. I also dislike when they did weird things with them, but I don't think it's the end of the world, as we found. We talked about the Tomb Raider thing. I also feel like it's in their best interest to do more and more. This is just a version of a different card instead of original designs over and over. Something else we talked about, but they also really leaned into that, into the Ian Malcolm stuff. All of them are other cards. Like there's no unique design here. And I think that's a good thing, ultimately.
By far the best of these, in my opinion, is the Atali, which is a T-Rex. The type line is a caution tape. And the Jurassic Park insignia is on the card. That one is by far the best.
Yeah, that's probably the one thing, is that the Jurassic Park symbol isn't obvious on all the cards.
Right.
It's probably the one issue I have with them. Like, let them make sure that we're aware they're branded as whatever they are. Like the Ian Malcolm ones, obviously you're depicting a character, so like we know what that is. With Laura Croft, like obviously she's just on the card.
Right. These
could be Magic cards, and people don't know that necessarily. So that's the only issue I have with that.
Yeah. And, again, I feel like it's cool. And they, from what I can tell for the Secret Lair Tomb Raider stuff, these are all very popular cards that are played in tons of decks. So, and you can tell, who it is. If it doesn't have flavor text, it's clearly Laura Croft and yada, yada. So, some showcase the Lost Caverns of Ixalan. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm still salty that the showcase stuff isn't coming to Arena, so that's just my salt. But the rest of these seem fine.
I mean, these really are fine, just not terribly exciting cards necessarily. But yeah, that's true. Cool looking.
The cards could be more exciting. The individual, like I don't know that anybody plays.
I think Alinda is the
best
card.
Yeah, Alindril is the money card, and this is the second reprint it's had in the last 12 months, I think, something like that.
So those, and Mika Synth Lattice.
Mika Synth Wave.
Yeah, Mika Synth Wave. First of all, that's really cool. But did you know that Mika Synth Lattice used to be like $50? It's now like 10. It's like 10
that card was insane for a while.
Didn't it get banned in a format where it was good?
I think it got banned for a while. I could be wrong, but either way, I was like, "Whoa, that's got to be the money card." And I was like, "Wait a minute, it's only worth $10." Even the Judge version's like less than 20. I was like, "Damn, y'all, print it into the dirt." But otherwise, I think this looks great. I love this art style.
I would have liked for these to be one panel. For some reason, my brain wants to make these one image, and they're definitely not one image.
Like they're definitely connected, right? But they're not one image. So that was the whole thing. And again, just like these weird.
The rest of these are weird. Like I don't even really want to talk about.
Yeah, I don't really. It's not a big deal.
There's some good stuff. Cool. Like if you like this stuff, it's cool.
Like this is
this is where I have to step away and be like, I don't want to yuck somebody else's yum.
Right. Like
because that package of cards was like the Cathartic Reunion or whatever. I don't even know what's going on visually. Like I for real looked at those and just went like, what are we doing here? Like, I don't really understand. I get abstract art's a thing, whatever.
It's the holidays, so there's gift wrap. I get that part of it. It's fine. There's a snow cover islands, whatever. This is the first time for the Tales of the Time Stoppers. The first time a Nexus of Fate has been printed in non-foil.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's kind of a big deal. I also appreciated Shivam on Twitter was just like, could we get these in like posters? Because these would make really cool posters.
Sure.
Instead of like itty bitty magic cards. Like,
and see, now here's a good example. Right, with these, and then I guess they did similar styles of these for the Lord of the Rings, whatever, recently. This is a case where I can genuinely say, like, I get it, because I'm not a fan. I've never really liked that style of art or whatever, but there are people who love it, right? So I look at these type of secret layers and go, yeah, I'm probably not going to buy that, but there's going to be a number of people who really are going to be excited about this. And those cards are actually all fairly playable, so that helps that set a lot.
Thanks to MTG Pack Foils, Mega Sync Lattice was banned in Modern thanks to Karn the Great Creator, which I'm sure also led to the reason its price collapsed.
Yep.
Which is unfortunate, but yeah, like I'm just like, it's fine. I don't know. It's just so weird. I feel like, there was a point in time in which I was really excited to see what Secret Lair was doing, and I feel like they went to so many different wells at this point, and the fact that we're doing full set releases of Universes Beyond stuff. The Universes Beyond stuff was supposed to be here. That's what was making Secret Lair so cool and different was, oh, snap, that's where I can get these other IPs. I can't get them anywhere else. Well, now there's entire damn sets. So whatever. Like, this is just some weird promos they're selling at this point.
I don't mind there being whole sets, though, because there are some, like, say, like Doctor Who, right?
Sure.
There's no way you could do that in a Secret Lair setting.
I agree.
And appease enough people.
Yeah.
Hell, just just doing 5 of the doctors would have had people upset,
right?
Right? Because, well, why don't I get the other ones? When are we going to get companions, right?
Right.
So that kind of makes sense to have it be a full set. So I don't mind that so much.
But
I do agree that some of the secret layers we're just kind of, I get we're experimenting and giving new artists a chance to do different styles that would never make it into Magic or whatever, which is kind of cool. But some of them are just so far out there with a weird selection of cards that I think that's where you're missing, right? When you already have a fringe audience for the style of art, and then a very small audience because, how many cathartic reunions does somebody need? Right? And we have enough of those.
And Pharmacist Judge is right. They could have went harder on Warhammer. There was plenty of factions that they didn't touch on, right? They only covered 4.
A prediction that we're going to hear that there's going to be more Warhammer.
I can see it.
Just because of historically, everybody knows who's had to work with Games Workshop. It's very restrictive for whatever reason. They were very protective. They probably chose like, hey, we want you to have these. And maybe those are also the same ones they were highlighting at the time or something. Who knows?
Right. Let's see how you do, right?
Yeah. But seeing how well it sold, and I'm sure Wizards paid a licensing fee or whatever, and they did 3 printings of the sets or whatever?
Like 5.
Right.
Like it killed. Yeah. It killed.
So would not surprise me if we hear end of next year or early the following year that they're going to do another 4 or 6 or whatever.
Or a whole set, right, of Warhammer stuff. And this time we'll focus on the so-and-sos.
I feel like we've blown a little bit to have a full set at this point.
It's possible.
But I don't know. I mean,
well,
there's easy to do 4 factions, though. There's still plenty.
Also, you could do a full set and just have some reprints of the big hitters from
that
the
is
previous
true.
printing, because there's some real good cards in there that they can
because we didn't do like Orcs, Sisters of Battle, Eldar. Like there's a bunch. I guess Grey Wolves or whatever they call those guys are like a big thing for them. Mm-hmm. Like, so there's a bunch of different ones you could still do.
Right. But it was a huge hit. I just feel like, at some point I'm just like, are y'all ever gonna pull back on the secret layers? Like maybe just a little thing, because
they will when they stop selling, or slow down enough to where it's not worth to run the presses for some of them. Like that's really until that point though.
And you also
people are buying them.
And you also have to recognize that for them to slow down, they plan so far in ahead, right? Like if they stopped selling 3 months ago or 6 months ago, it would be a minute before you could really start to walk it back.
But for secret layers, it's a shorter turnaround time. Mm-hmm. So they could just go, if anything, they've only commissioned the artwork. So you could be out the 10, 15 grand you paid for artwork on a set or whatever.
Yeah.
And still cut your losses and be okay there.
And they've wafted between print on demand stuff versus they've printed so many and they'll print some more if the demand's there or something or other. I've seen them slice it a few different ways. But yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's a secret sauce there at this point that could get me really, really excited. Like, I need to buy that product. If it's not a Universes Beyond that is very like Street Fighter or something that's just my jam, right? These random snow-covered lands are just like
that's the thing though, right? Like I look at the Tomb Raider stuff and I'm like, yeah, all right. But there's other people that are genuinely jazzed that they're doing Tomb Raider stuff.
Sure.
So in the same way, I was like, oh, Street Fighter's kind of cool. There were people that were super big on the arcane things. So each part, I mean, hell, we have coming next year. The
Avengers.
Yeah, Avengers is going to be a thing that people are going to be super excited about.
So sick.
Right?
I'm very excited about that. Myself, I'm very excited, which is great. I wanted to call out some community efforts, particularly by Queen of Cardboard and Sarah Six and Friends, as well as Hobbs, who did a great job with raising money for cancer research. Cool Stuff Inc. was able to sponsor some of the prize giveaways, which was great. They raised over $50K, which was fantastic. Super great job to honor Sheldon Menery, which was amazing, and it was just a wonderful. Everybody came together, and it went great. And so, congratulations to all those involved.
Yeah, that was a lot of work to put together, and they were streaming basically all weekend. So, good for them, and thanks to everybody who either bought something from the auctions or donated money or whatever.
Yeah, it was really terrific to watch, and watch people get excited throughout the weekend and hit those goals, and keep going and going. It was fantastic. Always fun to watch, and the world's a little less bright without Sheldon in it, but we can do a little something to brighten it ourselves, and
we try to live up to his standards.
Absolutely. All right, so the MagicCon 2024 schedule was released, so that's neat. Next February, it's going to be in Chicago for Emerge at Karloff Manor. In June, it's going to be in
Yep.
Amsterdam for Modern Horizons 3. In October, we're back to Vegas for the World Championship 30. And so, if I am correct in my counting here, that's one less MagicCon than we had this year, which is interesting.
Yeah. February in Chicago is a choice.
That's a choice.
February anywhere is hard, but Chicago is also, and Chicago any time of year historically has been hard for Magic. If I recall, there's only been a couple of GPs in this century in Chicago based on the cost of events, and I'm already seeing people who are not super pleased with the pricing for hotels in the area. So, I love Chicago. My sister lives there. But it's not the best convention city.
Sure.
Don't tell the DNC that.
But it's a shame though, because they do have one of the largest convention center facilities in the country. Yeah. Like, really nice, but it's expensive, man.
I was going to say, I bet it's real cheap to get the February space. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. Which might be one of the reasons they used it. Because
it's a good possibility.
As much as people say, like, why does Wizards not put, or anybody, why does this company not put an event near me or do this? And it's just like, man, there are a lot of logistics you may not have considered. And when you're comparing cities at certain times of the year, some are just better than others.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised, though, that the reason they're doing one less event is that they're probably going to be putting more into each of these events and expanding them quite a bit, because Vegas was much better the second time around than the first time. Like, the spaces that were available, like the programming that was there, like everything top to it. Yeah.
Right.
And I think they want to come closer to replicating that, which I would assume takes a lot more time, effort, planning. So if you're going to take an event out to get higher quality for 3 events, I'm good with that.
Sure. And I'm willing to accept that Chicago is a great con city, as we are being told in the comments by Robo Token. They do host C2E2 every year, which is a very popular convention. Critical Role performed there either last year or in the recent past. And then ASIN, the Anime Central con, is also there every year. And as I mentioned, the Democratic National Convention will be there next August. So I'm willing to accept that it's a great con city. Historically, for Magic, it has not been a great con city because of the difficulty of travel and the difficulty of housing. For what costs are just expensive in the Chicago metro area.
But there's a new Counterspell promo that you get for entry that's kind of rad, which is neat. They have a whole bunch of packages stored. The Pro Tour is going to be there as well, which is awesome. They are going to have a 75K standard open.
That's something else that came up too.
That's huge.
That they're going to have a standalone Pro Tour, because these Pro Tours have been happening at each of the MagicCons, and there's one less MagicCon this time.
Right. So unless they do something else weird, which we don't know, but we'll see. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute since we've had a Pro Tour Chicago, so
it's true. The
last Pro Tour Chicago was legendary 20 years ago.
I was gonna say, like 2003, 2002,
2001, I think.
There's the Randy Buehler one.
Yes, the most recent one was the Randy Buehler one. There was also the Bob Marr Pro Tour,
right?
Which was Chicago as well, I believe.
And I'll say this though about the 75,000 standard thing. If I wasn't working the event or am not working the event, I might play that. Like, that's actually pretty sweet.
It's pretty hardcore. And you get this sweet ponder. Look at this turtle. Look at this turtle on this ponder.
Oh my gosh.
That is kind of cool, honestly.
Spend $150 at the show store. I
love him.
And look, he's got the Chicago dog, and he's got the pizza, the deep dish pizza there too on the right. Like,
he's pretty cool.
It's pretty neat. And
okay. See, why don't we have just this more often? I want my good turtle boy.
But not just that, like, it's a weird piece of art, but it's indicative of where it's from. And it's still readable and fun. Like, I have no problem with this. This is a cool card. Like,
yeah, I think, and some of the big hitters are like Magali's going to be there, Elena Danner, Kieran Yanner, Chris Ron, and Leon Tucker, as much as other guests as well. But I know, like, Magali in particular, like, she's from overseas. It's hard to get her to come to a show. This is rare. If y'all love her artwork like I love her artwork, this is definitely incentive to go to Chicago.
Oh, and dude, for people that did not go to Vegas, they had like 50 artists there, and I'm not even exaggerating. I think the number might have actually been 50. If not, it was plus or minus like 4.
Is
But
this? Hold
it was
on.
crazy. There were
Is
so many people lined up for the artists.
The turtle. Go back to the turtle.
Are we Chonkosaurusing? Is that what we're doing?
Apparently
here?
so.
Wait,
Chonkosaurus, the
Hold
thick
on.
snapping turtle.
Oh, from their zoo or something?
Was found on the Chicago River, was recorded sitting on a rusted chain by a kayaker.
Oh,
and that's
cool.
what the art is the turtle sitting on a rusted chain eating.
Oh, it does. It looks like that in the picture. If you look
incredible.
that makes sense.
He enthralled thousands.
I'm in love.
Wow.
That was a quick turnaround by whatever
round of
artist
applause,
did that.
Honestly, round of applause for the artists, for the art direction. Like, that's cool.
A+.
That is incredible. So
are we sure the background for this art was not done by somebody else, though? That's a quick turnaround.
Hey-o.
Messing around. Anyway,
they actually had no background, so they probably.
That's true. There is no background.
I love the Chonkosaurus. That's amazing. So yeah,
very good.
So there's some add-on events, which is kind of interesting. They're trying new stuff there, but for me, the artists here are absolutely killer. And I don't know if there's going to be as many as there were in Vegas. I don't know if that's always a bad thing either. Like sometimes it is a few less. Still have a nice, selection, but sometimes more is not always more.
Oh yeah, and some people won't want to travel, being winter in Chicago, I'm sure.
Right, and I know that the artists themselves like it better. Not necessarily always, but it is in many ways preferable because you get more space. There's more demand, all that kind of stuff.
Right. So again, you want to have a lot of artists, but you don't want to have too many artists. And I think 50 was kind of pushing it. But regardless, super cool. Looks like a hell of an event. Hope all those who go have a fantastic time. All right. So just to bounce through some of the last things here, I thought it was neat that Brian David Marshall noted that next year is 30 years since he ran his first Magic event, which is kind of incredible. And if you look at his tweet here, he has the actual flyer for the event. And I think my favorite is internet email can be sent to, so on and so forth.
Yep, it's very good.
E-mail. I love it. For me, I would be like, run the event next year with the same prizes, right?
I mean,
like Arabian Nights set, Legends packs, like Wizards come through, find them some product somewhere. Because the set now is like worth 40, 50K, which, as a 40 or 50K event, you get a lot of people invested and interested. So
if they ran it at the Roosevelt Hotel.
Oh my God. I don't even know if there's
at the if they just reprinted. I'm pretty sure the Roosevelt's is the same place.
Does it? Okay.
If they just reprinted this flyer,
right,
that would be
incredible. Would be choice. Right.
That'd be so good.
We're gonna go deep. That would be.
I think deep. The crazy thing really is to look around and realize how many people back then are still around and engaged with the game. Like,
oh yeah,
none of us 30 years ago would have remotely considered we'd even be sitting here doing a podcast or making content for help. The idea was insane. Like
I wasn't even playing until 96. So like,
there you go. Right. To even think the game would still be around, hell, even 15 years later is kind of nuts. To now we're going like, well, it just goes away whenever they decide it's going away.
It's never going
when did you start Power Dragon?
I was somewhere between late 94, early 95. So I was like a year late to the party. When I bought my first starter set, Revised and Unlimited were both on the shelf still.
Oh, nice.
And then Evan, you were 96. I'm the latecomer. I didn't start until I was 12 years old in 1999. I barely played in the last century.
I was 18 for most of that year. So yeah, I got the opportunity. Like my first starter was Ice Age, and I even bought Homelands and Fallen Empires boosters because I didn't know any better, as you don't at the time. You're like, it's Magic cards. But you learn pretty quickly. But yeah, and I got to see the release of Alliances, which was a hell of a Magic set, which was also very fun. But yeah, so that was neat. Always enjoy the going down the memory lane there. And we're gonna move on here to some desperate ravings. Because I definitely wanted to mention that Pure MTGO is shutting down. PureMTGO.com was a resource for Magic Online players to find like what the event schedule were going to be, the movers and shakers, things about the client, or things about the events that are happening. And it's, it's a little sad, unfortunately. Joshua Clater was I believe the head editor for that, at least the head writer, and had written like episode 750 of like the week that was. I can't remember exactly what they call it again. State of the Program, that's what it's called. And so this is the end of an era, basically.
I feel kind of bad because I didn't even know this existed.
Oh, I knew it existed, and it's been existing for a long time. Like,
and like, not to say it's not good. I mean, it probably was great.
Sure.
Just literally, I'm looking at this right now, going like, I've never even seen this.
Yeah.
And like, I don't even know if anybody in my Discord has seen this when we've talked about stuff. Nobody's ever even mentioned this site.
Well, it was a lot more, it was a lot bigger when MTGO was the main way to consume Magic online. Since Arena came out, MTGO obviously has changed hands in terms of who's making it, and it's sort of fallen by the wayside. So the economy of the MTGO bots and trade system has sort of fallen off as well. But yeah, I mean, Pure MTGO has been around for longer than I've been around, I think.
Well, yeah, they've got 750 issues or episodes or whatever.
Peter Yan used to write. If you read all the old school, remember Peter Yan? He wrote some good articles, by the way. He wrote crazy for back then, and that's incredible.
But so it's an end of an era. I mean, 750 episodes is a huge accomplishment. I mean, I would be shocked if I made it to 750 anythings. I think I made something like 40 news innings. You know what I mean?
Like yep.
And people are still talking to me about those. And I think Chewy probably made it above 750 when he was doing his stuff.
Right.
But even like legendary podcasts like the A-Team and Limited Resources, I don't know that they're at 750. So that's a huge accomplishment, and congratulations and condolences are in order. But all things pass eventually. So enjoy. I've enjoyed the time that I had with Pure MTGO, and grateful for the content that they've provided.
Yeah, it feels sad because this feels like the type of thing that like it's just a victim of change, sadly.
Sure.
Right? Like things still move forward, and I mean, I guess just the resource isn't that needed anymore. But obviously they were doing something right, and a lot of people appreciated them. So
and Magic Online is going to die hard. Like it's not just going to collapse. It's whimper territory, and that's mostly what people are noting as Pure MTGO went with a whimper. It did not just be like, nope, we're done. It's like, well, we've kind of ground down, and we're kind of done. And so that's kind of where it's at. And
more related MTGO stuff will be going by the wayside as Arena adds more and more stuff. Right. As Arena gets closer to having everything.
Right.
Because really, once you get to where Modern is even available on there, which they're still a ways distance from, that takes away a lot of people who would be playing events in Magic Online. And then once you can't get players, then other people are going to stop investing in it or signing up for events. And then that's where you start seeing the downhill slide.
And you recognize that Vintage only needs like 100 cards or something to really function the way it's currently functioning. And they have so much in the client already. But Reuben, another sad, unfortunate announcement was Comic Town closing after 30 years.
Yeah, Comic Town was my home store in Columbus, Ohio. Comic Town on Morse Road. Those of you who grew up in the Midwest may have gone to PTQs at Comic Town. You may have met Ryan, the owner of Comic Town. I may have spent more time in that building than any other third space of any time during my childhood.
School, home, Comic Town.
School, home, Comic Town was it. I went there every Friday. I went there most Saturdays. I went there many other times of the week. I worked there. When I received the phone call that I was being hired by Star City Games as a writer, I was in Comic Town. When I received the phone call that I was being hired as a content coordinator at Star City Games in office, I was at Comic Town. I've done hundreds of tournaments there. It's another passing of time. Ryan, the owner of Comic Town, is a delightful man and gonna go raise his kids, focus on family and change the direction of his life, I suppose. But it's a sad day for the community. And I just I wanted to make mention of it because that's my store. That's where I learned to play Magic somewhere else. I played FNMs at other places, but Comic Town was my home store. Right. And that's where I wanted to if a tournament came to town, if a PTQ came to town, I wanted to defend Comic Town's turf, and it's sad. It's sad to see it go away.
Right, there was always the local end bosses, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is store's best players, the guys who always made the top fours or whatever, and would split or whatever. I'd seen that all the time, and so the local end bosses were fun. And I felt super sad when I went by my first original store and it was just from some strip mall and it was gone. And I mean, it didn't even last, I think 10, 15 years.
Hats off to anybody who's done the grind. Cause I've been there. It's once you get past 10 years, I'm hats off. Cause I know what you dealt with and what you put up with. So man, I have nothing but good things to say about people. If you survived it that long and you found a nice spot to be able to sell things, close up shop, and be happy, you earned it.
And it's, it's tough, because, you hitch your entire wagon onto a product you have no control over. That can be super good or can be super not good. And between things like fakes and people trying to, do scams and things or chargebacks or whatever, or dealing with returns or trying to process buys or trying to sort a million cards, the grind is the grind, small scale or large scale. And you got to, tip the hat to those who did it for so long. So with that said, let's turn the corner here to the finisher. Flesh and Blood reproduced the Professor's Office at their World Championship event last weekend to let everyone sit in on office hours and take a campus tour of the Tolarian Community College for themselves. And this got me thinking, what space would you like to see reproduced at the next MagicCon, Reuben?
Well, I would want to see the legendary New York game store Neutral Ground reproduced on one side of the convention center, and then the legendary New Jersey game store Target, the only game in town, on the other side, just to try to recreate some of that classic Jets versus Sharks energy again.
Power Dragon?
Man, to just show everybody how old I am, you can go back to the original Pro Tour finals and we could just replicate that they used to have on ESPN back in the that actually a thing that happened, y'all. If you don't know, they used to show Magic tournaments on their broadcast. That was an actual thing back in the 90s. But then we could go cargo shorts, Hawaiian shirts, and we could actually just, be as popular as the X Games were once upon a time.
Yeah, let's do some X Games craziness because everything was extreme. It was the 90s.
Exactly.
Yeah. The Deuce was what it was
every
called.
drink you bought was extreme.
It was so extreme. It was massive, incredible. Now, the place from Magic's long and illustrious history I'd like to see brought to a future MagicCon has got to be the campus cafeteria at Penn in the late 80s, where Richard Garfield and company invented Magic the Gathering, because I have got to see the mix of variables that led to this weird, wonderful game we all play.
That would be a magical place to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah, maybe they give you some trays and you'll go down a thing and they'll give you a little bit of food and then you're like, okay, and play some Magic, play some Wizard Squares. It'll be great.
That's right.
And that ends another live episode of Magic Mics. Thanks for joining us here to discuss all things Magic. Thank you, Power Dragon.
Hey, thanks everybody. Always good here to chatting with you and sharing ridiculous stories.
Thank you, Reuben.
Hey, to our American viewers, happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for joining us this evening, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. As we move here to our final slide, I want to thank our sponsor, CoolStuffInc.com. Use the code MagicMics, promo code at checkout for 5% off anything in your order. Our co-sponsor, Mana Traders, my co-host, Power Dragon, and Reuben Bressler. You guys for watching and listening. I hope you support us at patreon.com/MagicMics. Please follow, like, tweet, favorite, share, subscribe to everything social that tells people we exist. Catch us online on our Discord, twitch.tv at Magic Mics, on Twitter at Magic Mics Cast, our Magic Mics subreddit, and like the Magic Mics page on Facebook. Well, join us here next week, same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.